Good evening, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Sports Extra with all the roundup of sports tonight. I am Ahmed Nawaz.
I'm Sabil Hazir, youth football coach and sports analyst.
And I'm K. Asif, cricket commentator and sports analyst.
Well, all three of us are going to bring you some exciting things tonight. We've got the lineup ready. Let's go take a look at what we're discussing tonight, and then we'll take the show forward. First of all, we'll be discussing about the Pakistan Cricket Board and the meeting of the Board of Governors. Very important story, I think, because from here onwards, you can gauge the plans of the PCB. You can gauge the plans of Chairman PCB Ramiz Raja. This was, of course, the 67th meeting of the Board of Governors, and also the new Chief Executive of the Pakistan Cricket Board as well, who has been appointed, and some of his thoughts as well at the same time. So you've got to gauge all of this in a prospect where you look at the future. And also, I think because the world is moving rapidly and cricket is also evolving, so we've got to discuss this in detail of where Pakistan is going, and it's good for a change that we've got a strategy mapped out. So what's the importance of having a long-term strategy in sports? That's also coming on the show tonight. After that, we'll be moving on to the fact that we've got some other things to discuss as well. And obviously, whenever you want action, you want UFC, don't you? And it was UFC 45 at Las Vegas, and we're going to be discussing that because it's been all about Bilal. And why Bilal is because the guy has done nothing else but win for the past couple of years or months, if you want to call it in general. But his last streak seems to be, and now his next challenge that he's called it as well, is also in contention. But overall, I think I've got to discuss about Bilal because the way he comes in, and we've seen it in the past couple of months as well, that fighters who have been very underrated have taken the UFC world by storm. And they're the next big thing now. So we'll be talking about that as well. And after that, we'll be moving on to football. And in football, we'll be discussing Boxing Day fixtures. And the teams that are playing, teams are not playing, of course about the league in general as well, and how the way things are progressing. So all about that in tonight's show, and we'll be starting off with cricket. As we said, the Pakistan Cricket Board held its 67th Board of Governors meeting as well, so we'll be discussing that in detail, and we'll also be identifying certain things as well. So first of all, for us to understand, the 67th Board of Governors met at the PCB headquarters in Lahore, and there was a discussion on many things, and then there was a subsequent press conference as well by Chairman PCB Ramiz Raja and the newly appointed Chief Executive, where a long-term strategy was also laid out for the public as well. And I think the primary discussion has been the change of pitches and a lot of other things as well. We'll be discussing that in detail, but Sabil, first of all, for something that we've discussed in the past shows as well is inconsistency. That has been the hallmark of Pakistan cricket. For once in a change, we're now seeing a plan of action where people are now thinking about a long-term strategy. How important is that in any particular sports?
It's the most important thing is long-term strategy. If you have short-term goals, that's great because it means you at least have some success. But those short-term goals have to build atop one another to then lead to some sort of long-term goal, because that's where you're going to have sustained success. And even short-term success, to translate that into long-term success, you need that longer plan to follow. So it's very good to see. Obviously, a lot of people have their hopes up now, and rightfully so, I think, considering the direction we've been going in with Ramiz Raja in charge. Obviously, there's a long time to go. Let's see how that 10-year pans out, but we are hopeful, and right now it does seem like, at least for me, when I look at it from a youth coach perspective, it seems to be panning out with all these youth contracts we're talking about, and this long-term goal which stems from the grassroots is not just a long-term senior development plan, it's a youth development plan, and that's very important. And how those two things linked together we can discuss. Again, I wish we had more information. Obviously there is probably a youth apparatus in place. I wish we had more information about that so we could discuss how effective that youth apparatus is.
I'll just give you a filler on that. Let's just discuss the first factor, because Sabil, you just mentioned that you had more. The fact that they're trying to give, and let me be very specific, 100 contracts to the most outstanding and bright cricketers under the ages of 11, 14, 16 and 19.
So that's the crucial bit, right? You're giving them contracts, now you're giving them incentive, and you're also giving them opportunity through that incentive to go and further develop their game. So when you're talking about the brightest players getting it, that means there's also going to be competition at that youth level. That also means that the best players hopefully are getting the shots at the right time. Because a lot of the time a player maybe they have quality at say 11 or 12 and they're not picked up, and then they just give up on the sport entirely. This way at least you keep them in the system, and then using that apparatus you get them to the senior team. So this is a good step of, obviously we will build on this with youth stuff. You always have to keep building and looking for the latest ways to move forward. And I think they also mentioned that perhaps there'll be some foreign coaches residing within our training facilities, and if they can help set up that apparatus, that would be wonderful to see as well.
Very true, and I think that's the way forward. We've often discussed about the fact that the youth needs a direction, and I think incentives at that level would also create that healthy competition that Sabeel is talking about particularly. K. Asif, moving on to the next bit, I would like to take your overall understanding of this as well. What do you think of this new regime in the Pakistan Cricket Board under Ramiz Raja, and now with the new chief executive and whatever the plans that they have? But particularly when we move on to this particular thing, which has has an alarm bell now that is ringing about the fact that they will have coaches specific for different tours. So that's something very particular. What do you think about that as well?
All right, I will move on towards your question, but I want to say something before that. The 100 players, they're getting contract of 30,000 rupees per month, and not only this stipend, but also the scholarship for the education as well. The second thing is that I will talk about first something positive regarding this meeting, and later on I'll discuss some negatives as well, as you discussed, and you asked the question of foreigner coaches and stuff like that. Because Ramiz Raja, chairman PCB, has clearly said that he's pretty much happy with the performance of Andrew Simons and Flender. So, first of all, as you said, that it was a 67th session of Board of Governors, BOG, and BOG, we used to say that. And the BOG meeting, it was a quite long meeting, Ahmed. It was around 10 hours. And Ramiz Raja clearly said that he'd never attended this sort of meeting and such a long meeting before. And now, the second important thing is that they brought PSL, Junior PSL in October 2022. And Ramiz Raja was quite happy. If you have watched his press conference along with Faisal Hasnan, who is the newly appointed Chief Executive for Pakistan Cricket Board, that and in their press conference I was quite happy that the body language of Ramiz Raja, because you know that he had more than 2 decades experience of communications. He remained a cricket commentator and presenter as well. So this is his business, and he's pretty much good in his business. And he responded a couple of questions which was very important. And the first one, which is really concerned for me, for you, for everyone, that is the corruption in Pakistan Cricket Board. And he said that we have zero tolerance for the corruption, either in the fixing matters or rest of the other matters.
He's been saying that ever since he was a broadcaster as well, right?
Yes.
He had a strict stance on this.
Strict stance as well. And I'm pretty much happy with that. And he clearly named a couple of guys, like, you know, that there's an investigation is going on concerning Zishan Malik and the conspiracy of Yasir Shah. So he said that we are closely looking towards them, and as I said, that Ramiz Raja, his stance is pretty much clear. Zero tolerance, no more forgiveness.
Discipline.
Yes, concerning that. Because we had watched and seen that in past what happened with the Amir, Asif and Salman Butt. Amir brought back into the national side, whereas the rest of the culprits like Salman Butt and Asif, they were
ignored.
Yes, you should have a clear stance for this, and now Ramiz Raja showed that yes, no more tolerance for the corruption. That was clearly discussed in Board of Governors meetings, and the other question have been asked to the Faisal, and that was pretty much a good question, and that was asked by renowned journalist Abdul Majid Bhatti, that, and he asked that what challenges do you have in your mind, and that was very clear answer. He said that, to be very honest, the Pakistani we Pakistanis are facing lots of problems in ICC, and that is our what we are bringing, what we are showing to the international community. And he said that when I was in ICC, when he was working, you know, that he remained the president for the Zimbabwean cricketers as well, and after that he was in ICC. So he said that when I was in ICC, it was pretty much hurting for me. It was pretty much dejected for me, because when I've seen that people, they were putting stories and clipping of newspapers which was showing bad face of Pakistan on the notice board of ICC.
The negative image.
Yes, the negative image. So that it is the big task for me what he said, that is a big
Right.
task for me to bring up the true face of Pakistan in the international community.
Very true.
So I think that it was a very, very important Board of Governors meeting. And the last thing which you asked, that the international coaches, Ramiz Raja said that we will go, as Sabil said, that we do have a couple of policies. Either we are going for the short term or for the long term.
Long term, yeah.
So yes, if you are planning for the short term policies and getting good results, everybody will clap for you. But if you're not getting good results, then we will concentrate on the long term policies.
Very true. I think you give K. Asif cricket and he's on full auto mode then. He does not really, you know. But I think that's a detailed analysis, isn't it, Sabil? Detailed analysis. But a couple of points that I could pick out from there is one factor, and also your comments about the fact that there needs to be a unified policy for tainted cricketers or for practices that, you know, bring a bad name to the game.
Well, that's a very well. In theory, we can all say yes. You need to have a zero tolerance. We can all agree on. But the way you kind of adjudicate that is a bit tricky because, say, for example, if we talk about now, obviously that thing has long been settled. We've gone over it. It caused the controversy it did, and now we've moved on beyond that. But you have to look at it. How do you, it's
a slight comment, but we did not learn the lesson from that. We moved on, but we did not learn the lesson.
Yeah, because if you haven't made a policy, you can say we didn't learn lesson. But the way I see it is, look, it's very tricky to adjudicate these circumstances because when there's a situation where you have a young guy, a young lad, and he, by senior players of the team, is misled in some way.
Manipulated,
right?
yes.
Manipulated. It's a bit tricky. And let's not forget, his road back to the top wasn't easy. It was a lot of grinding, a lot of taking abuse, a lot of things which he shouldn't. Even after doing that, a lot of things were unjustifiable in the way he was treated by the public and by the fans, because they were rightly hurt, but they took that hurt out in a way which wasn't that productive, you could say, as it very rarely is. So it's tricky, but you're right, we need to have some sort of protocols in place where we can at least go like, look, these are 3 or 4 levels of how we deal with it, and in different situations, these are how we apply those levels. So at least even if there are different punishments dished out, there's some sort of consistency and system there that you can go like, oh, well, this one is more severe because it was longer, done by a senior player, done in certain circumstance. So you need those protocols in place, and let's hope we move towards them and we don't have to have another massive scandal before we do.
Definitely, that's very true. I think to one extent you have to agree that, you know, if a youngster is misled by his senior under all kinds of pressure, could be a threat to drop him, could be a threat to exclude him from the system, then, you know, a young mind can be manipulated. But with these strong protocols, one thing is very clear that Ramiz Raja has brought in, that everyone from a youngster to a senior person now needs to understand that there is a zero tolerance policy. If you are ever caught in such a thing, if you fail to report any breach, then you're going to be penalized for that, and you should be. Overall, K. Asif, final question to you from this segment before we show you the red card is there has been a lot of talk about the Pakistan Cricket Board, whether constructive criticism, whether negative, whether positive. It's been there for years, since whenever we have started to see cricket. Things have been changing. Every new management comes in, then the role of the last one is criticized. But for the first time, what I did see is that this management realized that, okay, the last tenure did do some good positive steps as well, including bringing back cricket to Pakistan, including putting the vision of the Prime Minister into place. Internationalizing, as you were mentioning, is the biggest concern right now. So what does the future have for Pakistan cricket? Do you also believe that at least these guys need to be given a long run and then accountability should come into play, because we don't want short stunts at PCB. We want a long-term policy. And also you must understand, because me and you are from the club cricket structure, that more than 3,500 clubs will be scrutinized now. So that is a next challenge for PCB.
Yes, absolutely right. That it would be a great challenge for Pakistan Cricket Board. But when you talk about the Board of Governors, Ahmed, they are not the elected people, they're selected people.
Absolutely.
It's a huge question mark for me, because if you want accountability, then don't go for selection, especially for your managerial levels. And time should be given to them. And I'm totally agree with you. Because Ramiz Raja got a bright vision for the Pakistan cricket, because he has very good contacts in, nationally and internationally regarding cricket. And the way he is bringing up the face of Pakistan cricket, New Zealand went back without telling us one reason, and that was only the security, and they went back. But look, immediately Ramiz Raja has taken an action, and he said that Pakistan won't play our home series away.
Anywhere else?
Yes, anywhere else. So it's all about your leadership, and I'm quite sure that Ramiz Raja got the sense, and he got the abilities for the leadership. So now this is the time that yes, we are with them, but we should criticize them on their if we got any sort of negatives. If you're not criticizing them and just giving them, ease and just giving them some positive vibes, we cannot bring accountability anywhere. Not
But
in
one
cricket.
thing that has been a comment from you as well, and you've often said this off camera and on camera as well, that there is too much control for the franchises when we talk about Pakistan Super League. Do you think that's one thing that needs to change? PCB needs to take things in their own hands now.
Obviously, look, this is PCB which is running PSL. It is not PSL which is running by
PCB,
run
yes.
by yes. We want control anywhere in PCB, that the PCB the guys from the management of PCB, they are running Pakistan cricket. And yes, I personally know that PSL franchises. Sorry, I'm not taking any name, but yes, if you talk about generally, yes, they are trying to emphasize on PCB's decisions, either in the domestic cricket, either in selection, either in even I do know that I won't take name or I won't personalize anywhere, but I have lots of concerns in that regards, that the PSL is the franchise which support PCB, but PCB is there to bring up the talent of Pakistan, the raw talent actually, and the PSL still needs to improve.
Needs to improve, definitely. K. Asif, thank you so much for joining us. Time now for our segment recap, and then we will definitely move on. So in the segment recap, what we've been discussing is the 67th meeting of the Board of Governors of the Pakistan Cricket Board. We've discussed the fact that there have been a lot of things that have been said, including the fact that there's going to be a youth structure, including the fact that 100 lucky youngsters are going to get stipends and scholarships through a program, and also the fact that foreign coaches for different foreign tours are in consideration, drop-in pitches as well, and also a roadmap for PCB for the next coming future, whether it's domestic or international cricket. That has been discussed. On that note, we'll take a short break, but when we come back, we'll be discussing action-packed UFC 45. Stay tuned.
Passion for polo will be the highest on the world's highest polo ground. Shandur invites visitors to experience a traditional polo tournament between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The tournament is held on Shandur Pass, the highest polo ground in the world, at 3,700 meters above sea level. The first time a polo tournament took place on the Shandur Pass was in 1936. It is a place unique and exotic in itself, surrounded by some of the most spectacular mountain scenery in the world. The event marks the annual rivalry between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The polo tournament has some added attractions for the visitors: trout fishing at the nearby streams and lakes, and a festival of folk dances and music of northern Pakistan. The event in itself offers a fascinating insight into the lifestyle of the people of this region. Their culture and indigenous customs are a delight to behold for the visitors. Crystal clear lakes, snow-covered mountains, alpine flowers, and vast stretches of green grass are added attractions. Fairs and festivals of Pakistan.
Welcome back to Sports Extra. Now, K. Asif surely has been knocked out, but me and Sabeel are still intact in the ring because now we're going to be discussing UFC 45. We've got a report. Let's go take a look and then come back.
Bilal Muhammad entered the UFC Apex with a chip on his shoulder, looking to make a statement in the welterweight division by defeating the former title challenger Stephen Thompson. Muhammad exceeded expectations by dominating Thompson, earning multiple rounds from the judges. Thompson's trademark kicks were on display early, which caused Muhammad to shoot for a takedown to slow things down. Wonderboy was able to defend the first attempt, but Muhammad's second effort was better and brought the fight to the ground, where the two would trade punches from one knee for a few moments. The dominant wrestling game from Muhammad continued to shine in the second round as he put Thompson on his back again. The game plan from Muhammad remained the same in the final round and quickly put Thompson on his back yet again. However, Thompson was able to get back to his feet and land a few strikes, but it was short-lived as Muhammad secured another takedown in the center of the cage. The judges turned in scores in favor of Muhammad, appropriately telling the story of the one-sided affair. Muhammad has now won 6 fights in a row by unanimous decision.
There you have it, all you need to know about UFC 45, courtesy of that report by Kainat Amil. So Sabeel, my friend, it's been about Bilal Muhammad, and what I read today was that all the guy has done in the past 4 years is win, 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 and this time it was Thompson, and then of course he's been absolutely superb there as well.
Yeah, he's rising up the ranks. He has won, I think now, he had one fight in the last 6 or 7 which was called off due to him getting poked in the eye by Leon Edwards, but other than that it's 6 wins in a row.
Yeah.
So you take that no contest out, he has 6 wins in a row.
10-1 won the record.
Yeah, incredible record. What's interesting is when he came into the UFC, he really struggled. He lost his first fight. I think he won 1 or 2 and then he lost again, and then he went on a winning streak. So this goes to show that it's actually very, very definitive of the way he actually fights, that he struggles. He's not particularly good at anything. We talk about him being underrated, right? It's because he's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. We know he's very good on the ground, but he's not exceptional at that either. He goes for quick submissions. He tries to get your back, and then he tries to capitalize. If that doesn't happen, he will just try to maybe get off the ground as well and then go again for a takedown. He's not exceptional at striking, but he will keep coming at you. He's a volume striker, volume with takedown. So he has that real grit and determination to just keep on coming at you. And when you're going up against a 39-year-old Wonder Boy,
we talked about that. Yeah.
I love Wonder Boy. When he came in, he was so unique and different. I really became a fan of his instantly. But Bilal, obviously much better shape, a lot younger, a lot hungrier, and he dominated, and full credit to him. He's on this massive winning streak. I think, I can't actually remember where he's in the rankings. He might be 5th or 6th right now. He's risen up quite quickly. He's doing very well for himself, and plaudits to him. He's on the road to getting a title shot.
Well, it's a bit funny, might be my personal opinion as well, but surely you can comment on this, that Bilal's strategy, like you mentioned, that he would keep coming at you and going for a takedown, and he's very comfortable taking it to the judge's decision. Whereas in the modern times, we have seen fighters who have been, very quick there for either going for a submission or a TKO.
So it obviously depends on the fighter's strategy. The good thing is he's realized his strengths. His strength is that he can keep going.
Yeah, stamina is there. Yeah.
And he's willing to be a volume fighter. So he knows he can knock people out, he has knocked people out, but he knows that's not his main strategy. His main thing is his grappling. And he also tries, like I said, to go for that quick back mount. If he can't get it, he's going to hold you on the ground for a bit, but it's not impossible to get off. I think Wonderboy's lack of a ground game made him stay on the ground longer than he should have. It's really interesting because Wonderboy's never been particularly good on the ground. He's a high-level black belt in karate. He's very good at striking, one of the most unique strikers the UFC has seen. But nobody, for some reason, has ever really challenged him on the ground as much as Bilal Muhammad did.
Yeah.
So that played into his favor. He's got a game plan. He sticks with it. Look at all of his fights. It doesn't look like he gets perturbed, no matter how he gets hit. If the person's even keeping him a distance with strikes, if his game plan is to close you down and take you to the ground and get your back, he's going to keep trying that.
Well, Bilal has made a big statement with his next challenge. What do you think about that?
Which I understand why he's made it. Because now obviously he's in form and the man he's called out has been out due to COVID and injury-related issues. But I think it's too soon. I think we look at that man is a level above him right now.
A beast.
Yeah, in my opinion, he's technically too good. He's a finisher. No matter how much stamina you have, his ground game, even though he's technically only a blue belt, I don't know what they do at the gym to get beyond the blue belt. But whatever strict regulations they have, it's clearly working. And he talks about this a lot as well. But on the ground, he will not be dominated the way Wonderboy was. It's a tough fight, and I think it's a bit too soon for him to have that fight. But it would be interesting to see. To see. And I think when you're riding such a high of 6 wins in a row, you're gunning for title opportunities as well. Yeah, it makes sense. You want to call out the best that there is.
Yeah, perfectly.
Even though his ranking is very low.
If you win, you win. Even if you lose, people will give you the credit for, actually having it in you to go towards that level.
Yeah.
But final thoughts on this segment about Derek Lewis.
Oh, Derek Lewis, I love him. I'm too biased when it comes to Derek Lewis because even though he's not my favorite fighter to watch, his personality is so endearing. He's so funny, and I'm happy he got the win again. Probably
against
the big, against the biggest. I think he's the biggest. I would say Bilal Muhammad came out with the biggest win of the night.
Yeah.
But if you go online and see the fans' reaction, they're saying
they've got Derek Lewis as the biggest win.
And you can understand that. And with anything Derek Lewis, I'm by saying, you know what, let Derek Lewis have it. Great job. And I think he's now finally, over the last couple of years, getting the recognition he deserves as a fighter. But he's been that fighter for a long time.
He definitely has been. But, that being said, it's been a good night for UFC. And it's been, I think, some intense fights at the same time as well. Like I said, that people keep on underrating fighters and then they surprise all of us. But that's been happening not just here, but in the women's circuit of UFC as well. So, things keep on improving and people keep getting surprised. So I think the winning ratio keeps going up. On that note, let's just take a look at the segment recap we had for UFC 45. So in the segment recap, we of course discussed UFC 45. We've discussed how Bilal Muhammad has been absolutely phenomenal as he's taken down Thompson. And once again, his next challenges are there on the cards as well. Might be too big of a shot, but you never know. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, people will give you the credit that you at least tried. And a bit about Derek Lewis as well that we mentioned at the same time. Time now to move on to our segment of football. It's going to be Boxing Day fixtures. There's been a lot of talk about COVID. There's been a lot of talk about the Premier League management, what they want to do with things as well. But at the end of the day, it's going to be football. And of course, Sabeel, people do love football even if it's on Boxing Day.
The best.
Following postponement request from United and Watford as a result of COVID-19, the Premier League board agreed to call off the two affected clubs' Boxing Day fixtures. Boxing Day is one of the biggest traditional days for football in the United Kingdom. The two matches postponed are Wolverhampton taking on Watford and Liverpool versus Leeds United, both due to be played on Sunday. Watford continue to have an insufficient number of players to field a team after their match against Crystal Palace last Saturday was postponed. The board concluded that Leeds will not be able to fulfill their fixture this weekend due to the number of players with COVID-19, injuries and illness. The club's training ground has also been closed. Leeds United's game against Aston Villa is also under threat. Following postponement requests from Leeds United and Watford as a result of COVID-19,
the Boxing Day fixtures, as I was just going to go to Sabil, but then this thing comes in. So it's good. At least we got to know about the fixtures as well. So Sabil, Boxing Day football, what has been your thoughts over the years about Boxing Day fixtures?
So I've spoken about this a lot recently, and we've spoken about it to like no end, that the winter period is the busiest time in the Premier League with the lack of winter break. The one bonus of that is the Boxing Day fixtures, because everybody's playing. It's a lot of fun. The most matches you'll see, and it's always exciting because you just have football the whole day. And after Christmas, I'm sure for people who are in countries where Christmas is a massive deal, although obviously for us in Pakistan, we have communities that do celebrate it. But there's just something nice about waking up the next day and just having your favorite teams playing all together. So I'm a big fan of Boxing Day fixtures in general. This year, leading up to it, I've been very scared, and rightfully so, because of all the cancellations.
Oh yes, that's a big concern. And even if we do move on to Boxing Day, holiday calendar is there, and obviously people have these meets and greets and seeing families as well. So the risk of exposure, you have to understand, is far more than it was before in the league right now.
So I just want to read something out to you from the league's official statement about this. The league aims to provide as much clarity as possible, but unfortunately postponements sometimes have to be made at short notice, as safety is the priority.
Wow.
Is this short notice? Have we not seen where this has been heading for the last like 2 months? Sure, this is the 12th, I think, cancellation this month, or maybe combined November.
Yeah,
but at least
in total.
Yeah,
and teams are suffering already.
12 cancellations. I think that's literally just from this month if you count all fixtures, but that is insane. And how many have we seen this week alone? At the weekend, last weekend, we've already suffered cancellations. This has been a long time coming. Teams are coming in asking you for, and this is the thing, there's not enough clarity as to why certain teams are getting postponements and some teams are. Is one case of COVID more infectious than the other? Like, that's not the case, right? So what is the Premier League, I really think, is mishandling. I think they just want to get their fixtures done, and they are giving some games postponements when they have no other choice. But if there's even a small sliver that they can get a game done, they're pushing it through.
It's just good business, isn't it?
Good business, yeah, good business. Henderson came out recently.
Yes.
Henderson said they don't care at all about players' welfare. I think that's very right. For a long time,
somebody has spoken the truth, at least.
Before COVID was even a situation, managers used to talk about how nobody cares about player welfare because they were burning out, especially as the calendar with the Club World Cup and things like that got more and more intense for the top level clubs. They were talking about burnout. Now with COVID, it's not just burnout we're worried about. We literally have players who are ineligible to play games because they've contracted it, or some coming back from injuries, and the combination of the two have left teams with no players. So I think we really have to look at these protocols. They're talking about transparency and all of these.
But even
things.
as a businessman, Sabil, they could, do the math that if they don't address this now, if they have it in a long term without fans, they're going to lose money anyway.
They can. I think when they do the math, they're like, fans are willing to pay whatever to watch it at home, so we'll still fill our pockets. That's a really sad reality.
So it's pay-per-view now, right? Like wrestling.
Yeah. Let's not forget they tried to introduce that model. It failed because fans were like, no, we're not doing this. but if they make you desperate enough, I think we're all realistically going to head towards that model. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. They need to understand, and I think they do, that fans are the most important thing. They keep the clubs alive.
Yeah.
The COVID postponements right now, we are looking forward to a day of Boxing Day fixtures, but if you've been following what's been happening with postponements, you knew at least 1 or 2 games, and that's what happened, have been cancelled. There's a few more games. I think Villa's game and a few other games are under threat as well to be cancelled. So if we're over here talking about, well, what games are we looking forward to? I can't tell you because I don't know which
because all of them can be under threat.
Yeah. Tomorrow we could have nothing ready for Boxing Day, and then maybe the game on Tuesday. I think United's playing on Tuesday or Monday. That might be out the window as well. So really, come the new year, look, you've gone through your fixtures. I don't think you should have done it the way you did, but please, let's update the protocols. Why can we not move towards a bubble? You're a multi-billion-pound organization. A full bubble is possible for you to do.
Definitely it is. Trust me, Sabil, you need to go and do a podcast with Gary Neville because both of you are really aggressive right now and making a lot of sense. But on that note, before we go, let's take a look at our segment recap first of all. And then, of course, we've got something to say as well before we leave the show. But before we move on, like I said, the segment recap is there. We talked about the English Premier League. Boxing Day fixtures are under threat. COVID-19 has been hammering with the new Omicron variant as well. Fixtures are in jeopardy. So you've got to be clear about that. There might be solid comparisons between games not happening and games not happening. It's as simple as that. No other math can work. But at the same time, we still see a lot of stubbornness from the Premier League management as well. But that is for the segment recap, and that's what we discussed in football. But before now we say goodbye, Sabeel, holiday is around the corner, and of course, like you mentioned, that our Christian community in Pakistan is there in certain numbers as well, and they're going to be celebrating Christmas. So if you've got any message that you'd like to give to them.
Look, it's a fun time for everybody involved. It's a spiritual time for some. We're all wearing our Christmas colors. So to everybody celebrating Christmas, we wish you a very Merry Christmas, and we hope you have a lovely holiday season and a festive time with your friends and your family. And as a nation, we should all, no matter what community is celebrating any holiday, we should come together and enjoy each other's happiness. So that would be my message.
Truly well said. But that we do know that Pakistan is a land of religious tolerance and interfaith harmony. Yeah. So I think, like Sabeel mentioned, that for all those who are celebrating, we wish you all the joy there is in the world on this Christmas. And for those who are not celebrating, we would also request you to be a part of those celebrations as well. Contribute to them in any way you can, and at least support them in any way you can as well, because that's what makes Pakistan so great as well. On that note, from me and the entire team of Sports Extra, it's goodbye for now.